Welcome to another episode of the Butterfly Mindset Podcast.
Left late night, what a mess. We woke up and we're still obsessed. Can't keep it straight night and day. We keep it classy, still we stay.
Welcome to another episode of the Butterfly Mindset Podcast. Today I have my good friend Stevie. What's up?
Hi, how's it going?
Stevie Cruz.
Stevie Cruz, that's a name. That is a name.
It changed recently, so we gotta. I was gonna say your other name, and then I was like, nope, Stevie Cruz.
Stevie Cruz is way cooler.
It is kind of cool.
Yeah,
it is a cool name. Very excited to have you on. So excited for a couple reasons. One, how we met was a very interesting way because I think that you probably hated me that whole day because you called me about one of our listings.
Hate's a strong word. You were just extremely annoying that day.
Exactly. Your client was super interested in it. Call me. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get back with you.
First of all, I didn't call you.
I think there was at least 12 missed calls. But anyways.
That's a lie.
And then I told you, I was like, I'll call you at the end of the day. And then finally we connected, but it was funny because that listing, I had that listing for, I want to say 3.5 years.
That's crazy.
Not on the market the whole time, on, off. The seller was kind of a nightmare. No, not kind of, definitely a nightmare.
Don't share the address. What if he's tuning in right now?
Exactly. Yeah, he could tune in. I told him he's a nightmare. And he put it on, put it off, pulled it off, and then he had someone that was supposedly house sitting it, and then apparently I hadn't been to it in a while. So I hadn't been to it. We had it off market. He's like, it's ready to go list again. We already had all of the assets, so all the photos and everything. We put it back on the market, and then I think that weekend or that day you went and showed it.
Yes.
And you were the only agent that told me like, hey, it's kind of weird. Like, because like what, you had to go in through the access to the back because he left the back door open.
Yeah.
And then.
It was just a whole weird situation. They had someone was living there, but
yeah.
it just looked like squatters were living there.
Yeah.
But obviously that wasn't the case. And then you weren't getting back to me. So I was like, okay, this is like a weird situation. Like something is happening here.
So in your mind, you're like, this agent is stupid.
I'm like, this agent's crazy. Like he doesn't know what he's doing. He does not want to sell this property. I'm texting my buyers like, hey guys, I don't know like if this is the house, like some weird stuff's going on. But you did eventually call me back. I gave you a hard time. We laughed about it.
Eventually also, it was the same day. It was like
the same day.
Work day.
No,
like,
and you had a valid reason.
Yeah.
But I didn't call you 12 times. I called you once. In the morning, you said you called me back. It was almost 5 o'clock. You didn't, so I called you back because I'm a good agent, repping my clients.
Correct.
And then you didn't answer, and that's when I was like, okay, this guy. But then you called me back like an hour later, which was great. And
so then we talked. We had a good conversation. And then long story short, I was like, okay, she's actually pretty chill. Because I get a lot of agents. I mean, we know this in the industry. There's some agents that are just like a nightmare to deal with. There's some agents that like you just don't get along with. And by the way, we never transacted.
Nope.
So that came and went. You and I built a relationship over time that now we talk all the time about different deals, so on and so forth, yada yada. And I think it's really cool because I think that the most important relationships in business are B2B relationships.
Couldn't agree more.
Like we always talk about relationship with clients and so on and so forth. And I always say like this business is all based on relationships, but like the most important relationships is B2B. And so I think we've created a good relationship over time. And as I've seen, you were pretty new at that point.
Yeah,
in the industry.
I was a year and like 2 months into it. Yeah.
And as I've seen your your growth over from that point to like where you're at now and like where you're going, it's really cool. And that's what I really want to share. I think success breeds success. So if we can share other people's success, then that's what helps more people become successful. Right. So so that's why I really wanted to have you on, because I think that it's pretty interesting. Like you closed what, 20 million in your first year?
20 million, yeah, first year, and then this last year, 22 million.
And so there's a lot of agents in the country that want to accomplish that. They want to just do that in any year of their business, let alone their first 2 years. You know, within your first 2 years, you're at, you know, almost, you know, you're $42 million, which is pretty impressive. But I want to break down, like, how did we get there, right? Again, I go back to relationships. I go back to what this business is. And I think that you have a lot of the core principles that create a successful agent. But I think it's more interesting on, like, how you gained those core principles, because that's how we actually get there. I think I was talking to my team earlier, and I was like, look, like, a lot of people see top level agents and they see what they're doing at that moment, and they try to copy that. But, like, it's actually understanding what they did to get there that will get you to become that top agent, not what the agents are doing right now. Absolutely. Right? So rewind, like, what even got you into real estate?
Okay, so I'll take it back pretty far. So I played Division I soccer. I was an athlete my whole life, which I think is a huge reason to why I've seen success in real estate so early on, like everything I've learned as an athlete. I'll touch base on that, but was a soccer player, went to UC Irvine, and then when I graduated, I come from a family, like my dad's an entrepreneur. Everyone in my family are entrepreneurs. I didn't even know what, like, the corporate world was, because all I did my whole, like, childhood was play soccer. Yeah. And even when I got to college, I remember my brother being like, just do sociology as your major. Like, you're there for soccer. I didn't even think about, like, my career. And then when I graduated, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not playing soccer anymore. Like, who am I without soccer? And then I got into the fitness space because that's what I am super passionate about still now to this day. Obviously, I teach group fitness classes. I ran fitness studios for 10 years here in Orange County. But when the pandemic hit, we had to shut down 2 of our studios. And I got to this point where I was like, I'm literally just like a front desk person in my, because I wasn't the owner of these businesses, right? I was the director of operations. I was running the businesses. I was treating them like they were my own, but they were not mine. And I remember it was in 2020, or towards the end of 2020, like right before 2021, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I'm 31 years old. I make X amount. I think at the time I was making like 80 grand. Yeah. And I just remember being like, what's going to happen from here? All studios are shut down. Like, I can't teach for a living and live here in Orange County. Yeah. And my dad, he's a big contractor and investor in LA. So real estate, that whole world, like, I've been a part of it my whole life. He owns over 200 doors in LA. And so for me, I was like, okay, like, real estate, like, I love people. And it's kind of familiar a little bit. And I remember on Christmas morning, I looked at my mom and my dad and I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump 2 feet in. And that was kind of the start. Got my license within like 4 months, did all the studying, joined my first team. And that's kind of like how I got into it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because, you know, you talked about playing soccer, then just get like, did you plan to play, like, did you want to play professionally, or like, what was like that thought, like, or you just never thought after college?
I think every Division I soccer player wants to play professionally. Yeah. But the reality is, like, I got into college and I was 5'4", I think like 110 pounds. And I was 17 when I got into college. I was young. And these girls were older, bigger, stronger. Yeah. And I was able to compete. Like I traveled, I started my freshman year. I injured my back, so I was out for 6 months. And that's what kind of really took me out. Like I didn't come back the same player. And my love for the sport was just not there anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't share this too often, but I only ended up playing 3 years. And I stepped away my last year, and I just remember being so devastated and disappointed in myself. And that was kind of when like the identity crisis hit, and I was like, who am I? What am I doing with my life? Because all I ever thought about was soccer. And like, you're an athlete, you played professionally, you know, it's like you live and breathe it. It's all you think about. You can't, it's all consuming. How do you think of anything else other than that? And so I didn't really ever think about my future. I just thought about in the moment. And then when soccer was done, then that's when I was like, what the heck am I going to do with my life?
And what was that like those emotions going through that? Because like my guess is like, especially as a college athlete, like you have like all your friend group is the other soccer girls, right?
Yeah.
So like then you pull yourself out of that. How did that all work?
So I joined a sorority.
That checks out.
DG, Delta Gamma, woo! But I was not for me. I joined, but I made like two of my best friends. I met them, and that was kind of it. And they were already, it was their senior year, right? It was their 4th year in, so like everyone was already kind of checked out at that point. So I kind of just joined so that I could like separate myself. Because to be friends and be in that group with the soccer girls, it just was too hard for me to like really deal with that. And so, you know, honestly, I partied more, which was like not at all who I am. I've never been a big party girl, but I partied more, and that was like a distraction. And if we're being really like candid here, I was so depressed, and I was young. I guess I graduated. I wasn't even 21 when I graduated, so I'm 20 at this time. I feel like my dad, even though he was not disappointed, I know he was sad, but I felt like I disappointed him, like in all the hard work that I, you know, had worked for my whole life. I just kind of like threw it away. I developed an eating disorder. I felt like that. I think that was like the only thing I felt like I could control. And I just spiraled. It was really, honestly, it's crazy to say, but like now being 34, I probably didn't get out of that spiral until I was like 30 years old. It was like a 10-year battle of regaining my confidence and figuring out, honestly, until real estate, like I don't think I really even knew who I was or like the direction I was going in. And so, for me, I just avoided that life, and I found a new life, new friends. And I mean, I don't think it was necessarily, I don't think I made the best choices, but I definitely don't regret it because it's made me who I am today. And it's part of my story. They say your mess is your message, and that is definitely part of how.
I like that one. I actually haven't heard that one, but that's a good one.
Your mess is your message. So it's why I am where I'm at today.
You said, so you were 20 and then, about 10 years, right? Like, was there a catalyst that helped you get through that? Or was it just over time, different things?
I think a mix of both. I think like as a woman, like I know they say this is like cliche, but like when you get in your 30s, like something changes. I think that's part of it. Like you just grow up and you mature and you just realize the things that you worry about or care about or obsess over, like just don't matter. So I think like part of just maturing and growing up, but also I do have to give some credit to my husband, my now husband. He's just such like a carefree guy, has such a positive outlook on life, super balanced, super grounded. And so being with him, like it forced me to work on myself. And listen, like if I look back on my journey, it's like I thought I was working on myself. I was doing I was doing yoga. I was journaling. I went on like, you know, a spiritual journey for a couple years where like my family was like, who is this girl? Like she's a little crazy. So I was trying to do the work, and I think I was, but I think it was a mix of like doing the work, having a partner who was so supportive and loving and showing me like what life would be like if I just kind of let go a little. and then maturity as well. And then also I think stepping into real estate, like it brought a whole another level of confidence that really helped me kind of get past it.
You think it was just like finally acceptance?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like a big piece of like a lot of, you know, mental health and things like this. I think a lot of times we tried to fix ourselves so often,
Yeah.
but like it's accepting this is who we are and this is how it is. And then that's how you move through it. But like a lot of times we're like, no, this is not how I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to do this. So I'm going to do this. Yeah. And then it's just like this whole spiral like we were talking about. Okay. And then, so you were 31 when you got into real estate?
Let's see, July of 2022. So that's 31.
31?
Almost 32.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's a big life move. I mean, okay, you know, there's a lot of people that want to get into this business and they feel like they have a stable job, they have a stable career, they have this. And then real estate is like this business where like it's all on you.
Yep.
Right? And so they go from like, you know, do I want to let go of this to go for this and make the bet on myself versus, you know, hey, like you're running another business, you're doing well, you're getting paid, you got your salary, but do I want to make a bet on myself? And a lot of people want to do that, but they're scared to take that leap. Like what got into you that Christmas morning that you're like, I'm getting my real estate license? Like, what was it? Was there something, a catalyst? Was there seeing something? Like, what was it that made you think to do it?
Yeah. So I think like, again, going back to like being an athlete, like our whole lives were focusing on achieving and always wanting more for ourselves. And I think for me, it was like with my career, I hit a ceiling and I had hit that ceiling even before the pandemic. I think that was just kind of like the final straw of like, hey, like wake up, like you can do more than this.
Yeah.
And I'm competitive with myself. And when I really like took the time to think about like my future, again, I was 31, right? I'm not a spring chicken at that point. Like I'm an adult. Like I wasn't engaged yet, but like I knew that was coming. And I knew this next 10 years, I was going to hopefully buy a house and start a family. And you just
bought a house.
Which I bought a house. But so you start thinking about those things. I'm not 24 or 25 years old. Like I'm a grown adult. And so it just hit me. I was like, I'm playing small. Like I know what I'm capable of. And right now I'm in a position where the control is in somebody else's hands. They're dictating like my future, how much I'm worth, how much I make. And to me, that just was like, that doesn't sit right. And again, just like thinking what was like the easiest, I know this sounds crazy, but it's easy to get into real estate. Like
it's low barrier of entry.
Which is crazy because what we do is actually so intense and you have to, I mean, for most people, it's the biggest investment in their life and they're trusting us on that with their, so anyway, I was like, okay, this is quick. I like sales. I like helping people. So again, it was just like hitting that point and me realizing like, oh, like I can do more.
Yeah.
I am better than where I'm at. And the biggest thing was like truly understanding like, what's my why? Like, and for me, like, I think the purpose of life is like serving people, serving others, like, and helping people. And that's why I loved fitness so much, because fitness is what took me out of the darkest places in my life. But also like, I think it's important in order to be successful, you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your health. Like, so the fitness world, the wellness world was always something I was super passionate about, hence why I built a career in it. And I loved coaching people. I taught yoga, I taught Pilates, I teach boxing classes now. I love empowering people. So with real estate, what I had come to realize was like, I can help people in an even bigger way.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the biggest investment for most people. So if I can play a small role in that, like that's huge.
Yeah.
And then also understanding like, hey, I want to start a family. I might not have one now, but like with this salary, with where I'm at, I can't buy a house here. I'm not going to be able to provide for my future children.
Yeah.
And so I just got to that point of like, okay, this isn't working. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not being challenged. And it's time to make a change. And got really clear on my why. And then that's kind of like understanding my why is what really then pushed me to take that leap. Because without that, like I wouldn't have had that motivation.
Yeah, I think that's the, you know, we always talk about it in like personal development, like find your why. What are you doing this for? Like yada, yada. And everyone's like, okay, get over it. Because everybody says it. But the reality is like, I truly think that is the most important step.
100%.
Because if you don't understand your why, then you can't create clear goals for what you want to accomplish. Because if you understand your why, then you can work backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, okay, hey, if this is why I believe we're here, then what now? There's a bunch of different jobs that you can do that fit in that why, right? So, for instance, your why is serving others, so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do. And then it says, okay, but I want this type of lifestyle as well with my why. Okay, so then there's smaller group of things that you could do. And then you can basically tailor it down to where you're at. And then it's like we were talking about before, is like, it's your choice to win versus somebody else telling you this is what is expected of you.
Yep.
And I think that's also a very hard thing as far as a professional athlete, an elite athlete, a D1 athlete. Like we're told our whole lives, this is how you do it, this is what you do, and this is what you need to do. And so we're used to achieving these goals, but then when we go into the business life or we go into the entrepreneurship or we go into this, it's like, I know I'm supposed to achieve more, but like, what do I achieve?
Yeah.
You know?
Totally,
and that's why we go through this this identity crisis when you get out of sports. So then when you figure out what your why is and why you're here and what you're doing, I think what ends up happening is then you have a direction to chase.
Mm-hmm.
And so you finally figured out your direction to chase. And then what did that business look like? You joined a team.
Yeah.
And that team had leads, like they were a flex team?
Yeah. So for me personally, and this is just like a personal, experience and how I'm wired and how I work. Again, going back to like, I was 31, right?
Yep.
I'm not a child. I'm not living at home. I need to make money. I have an overhead. So for me, the most important thing, and if any new agents are listening to this, like to me, was learning. Like that is all I cared about, was like, how can I be on a team where I get the most reps and I learn the most and I have somebody that can be a mentor? It wasn't about the commissions.
Yep.
But
that's how it should be. Yep.
That's how it should be. But I still needed to make money. So this opportunity, came about where the team that I joined was looking for the role called the showing partner role, which was, I don't know if that's still really popular. I know it was popular for a little bit, but I was hired and I had a salary, and it was like a $50,000 salary. Mind you, I was still doing stuff in the fitness space, still making money there, but on my own time, right? So I was able to create my own schedule, but my splits were really small, like 10%. And I was part of a Zillow Flex team, so I was getting like Zillow leads. And within like the first month of me being on Zillow Flex, I closed 5 deals, which like, if anyone knows Zillow Flex, like they're not great leads. Like they're hard. But to me, I wanted to have the financial security. And granted, like it wasn't a lot of money, but I had enough with my salary, with like the other things I was doing to sustain my life. But it allowed me to actually jump in and not feel the pressure of having to make money. I didn't want to come at this, this profession with like commission breath. I didn't want to feel like, oh no, I need to make money. And I didn't want my clients to see that. And also, getting leads handed to me and being able to turn those leads into actual clients, like that's actually really hard. People think, oh, leads handed to you. Like that's actually really not easy and challenging. But I got reps in. And that was so important to me, because with real estate, you will not be prepared by just studying and doing the state exam. Like nothing you study,
nothing.
Like
It's
you literally
0%.
Zero. Like I don't remember anything.
Meets and bounds.
Yeah. No, meets and bounds.
Meets and bounds. You don't ever use it.
Yeah,
but that's what
true.
I remember.
Yeah, meets and bounds. I was like, wait, we don't use that. But yeah, exactly my point. But again, just going back to like reps is how you learn. And to me, that was the most important thing. So I knew I was going to get the most amount of reps if I was getting leads handed to me. I had this salary, and I was essentially like the right hand of the broker. So I was also helping him with his deals.
Yeah.
So that was the most important thing for me. And that was my first step into real estate. And I feel like I was able to jump 2 feet in because I had that backing. Now, not everybody has that opportunity.
Correct.
So I'm a little bit different. I know people say you have to jump 2 feet in to like really succeed. And I think there's truth to that. But I also think everybody's situation is different.
100%. But I think at the same time, like you hit it on the nail, is the most important thing getting into any career, any business, anything. I mean, any venture is like learn from the experiences of others.
Yeah.
Because like you learn from experiences in life, but they don't need to be your own.
Correct.
Right. And so like, you know, I always tell people like your first couple years in real estate should be like, think about it like you're going to college. Like you're going to college, you're going to go get your degree in real estate, you know, but practice, not, you know, because you could get a degree in real estate, but like, let's talk about real estate practice. Let's talk about like actual thing. Like, let's go get a degree in this. What does that mean? Most of the time, like if you're getting into, if you're going to college, colleges aren't paying you.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
like you know, you're an athlete, something like that. Then yeah, you got your stuff paid for, but colleges aren't paying you. You know, and so you go to college to learn, and most of the time it costs you money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to the right spot, then you learn and then you will excel.
Couldn't agree more.
Right. And so I love that fact that like you mentioned that like you went to a team that you can learn from. And that's the most important piece is like wherever you go when you're a brand new agent, you should not go after split. You should not go after like all of that. If you get any money, it's a bonus for you if you're learning.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that's a very important piece of like how you got to where you're at, because then from there you've done so well since then. And I think that's a very important, I don't want to skip over that. Like I think that's a very important piece of your story is like the fact that you want to learn and become better, and you're willing to do this understanding that you're going to get the knowledge to be able to grow. So then you have your business. So then you're in the business.
Yep.
You're finally in the business, and then fast forward, you know, you're the showing partner, and now all of a sudden, you know, you just ended up getting all these deals, and you close all this money, and now it's all success, right? No hard work.
Well, yeah, no. How about okay, really good. Going back to like knowing your why.
Yeah.
I cried so much my first year of real estate, and like I'm not a crier at all. And the only way you're going to push through is knowing your why, because it is so hard and it's such hard work.
Yeah.
And the first year, like I had leads handed to me, but like, again, closing those leads. And also just like when you're learning something new, especially with people that like us, how we're perfectionists, we're go-getters. Obviously we have high standards for ourselves. We get that from being athletes. Like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I felt so lost, and I was like, what is happening? And when I don't feel like I'm good at something, or I know, like obviously there was things that I was naturally good at when I got into the business. Like I know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
I know how to create a good experience, but I knew nothing about real estate, contracts.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But again, that's why you need reps, because I still learn. I mean, you do too, right? Every escrow, you're learning something new. There's not one same escrow, I feel like. Some are easy.
Not. Yeah.
And some are really hard.
Yep.
But yeah, so fast forward, that was my first year. And now 2 years in, and had another great year. But I'm on a team now where I don't get leads.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the best. Like, I think that the first year was great, but I think depending on the leads, I was so nervous thinking to myself, like, how am I going to do this without leads? Like, if I leave this team, because it was time for, like, I had done all the growing that I could on this team. And I was moving back to LA too.
Yeah.
I was in Orange County, then moved back to LA. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know how to get business without these leads.
Yeah.
Like, so although like at the time it was really helpful, it also set me back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then now, a year into this new team, I mean, I'm a completely different agent. I think leads are great, but you cannot depend on them for your business. Like, you should not be building your business around Zillow leads or whatever lead platform.
Yeah.
Like, you need to learn how to generate your own business outside of those platforms.
Well, it's what creates you as an independent entrepreneur.
When you
right?
talk,
Like,
go ahead. Sorry.
like you're a business owner. I mean, look, there's a bunch of different lead sources. You can get Zillow, you get Redfin, you get this, you get that, yada yada, whatever you want to call the lead sources, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, like as an agent in the business, as a successful agent in the business, you have to learn how to generate leads to have a longevity in this business, which will end up, people say listings last, yada yada, whatever it is. You got to build a pipeline to be able to have longevity in this business, or you will forever work for somebody. And again, there's no issue with if somebody wants to work for this person or dependent on this and get their salary, their $50,000 and a little percentage, and they feel comfortable and they feel good. They're making, 80 to 100 grand a year, yada yada. Like that's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But if you want to like be on the other side of it where you're a true business owner, you have to learn how to do it on your own, or else you're forever stuck.
Yeah, well, you say it you have to create a predictable business.
100%.
It's the only way to truly be successful.
Yeah.
Because I just found myself in another position of just being an employee, somebody essentially telling me what I'm worth, right?
Yeah.
But again, that there was like purpose during that time frame. Like I was happy with that.
Well, and that's what I tell. Look, I get a new agent. I get new agents that call me. They're like, "Oh, we want to join your company, yada yada." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like we talk about it. We go through it. I go through our my questions that I ask. I always ask 3 questions, and then I look at them and I'm like, "Are you prepared to do everything I tell you to do for the first year?" Yeah. Well, but I won't do this. I'm like, then you can't join my team. Right? Because the reality is if it's your first year, you don't know what to do and how to do it.
Absolutely.
And so my perspective in any business, in anything, is if you're going somewhere to learn from a team or an agent or whatever, you're going there to learn from the team or the agent.
Yeah.
So do everything they tell you to do.
Absolutely.
Without question.
Or else be on your own if you don't want to.
Figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
100%. And I'll tell you, you're going to go 0 to 60 a lot faster if you listen to the people.
Yeah.
And so and then when you understand enough, and you said it very well, is you felt like there was no more growth in that position, then it's time to move to the next position.
Yep.
And if there's an opportunity where you're at, like I always tell people, like, look, exhaust all opportunity. If you feel there's no growth, then you sit there and you maybe have the conversation with your team leader. You have the conversation, you say, hey, look, how can I do this? How can we grow? How can we build this? And if there's still no growth there, then you say, okay, hey, look, I exhausted every opportunity. Now I have to figure it out. Now you either go on your own, you join another team, you go, do something of the hybrid, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I think everyone's always like, how do you know when to leave? If you feel like you could still grow there, then you don't leave yet.
Yeah, you know.
Correct.
You feel it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so look, like I think it's important to go back to how you got to where you're at. Like you come from sports, always looking to achieve something, always looking to grow, to dealing with what you're dealing with. Then you go to, mental health issues and so on and so forth. Then you get into real estate, you focus in on the thought process of the learning, which I think is the most important piece in any business. And now you're absolutely crushing it. I think it's funny because I talk to a lot of agents and I coach a bunch of different agents and I'm like, okay, like I can kind of see where their peak is and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I could probably get them to this, I could get to that. And every once in a while you see an agent that you don't know where their peak is because they have so much potential. And it's hard to use that word potential because it's all fake. Like potential's not real. It's just like, could happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but there's some agents that you say, okay, hey, I could probably get them to 20 million. I could probably get them to 50 million. I could probably get them to 100 million, yada, yada. And then you see some agents that like, we call it the it factor in the business. Where like, you have the personality, you have the work ethic, you have all of these pieces where it's very hard to predict where your peak is. And then that's that it factor. And I think you have that. It's just, it's like now, so it's very exciting because, having this conversation now versus let's say 8 years from now when you're 10 years in the business, it'll be very cool to see where you ended up going from where you're at now to where you're going. So I have 2 more questions for you.
Lay it on me.
The first question is, where can people find you to connect with you?
My Instagram.
Okay, what is it?
Stevie Marie Cruz.
How do you spell it?
StevieMarieCruz.
Okay, so if they want to contact you, call you, they're going to go to your Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then my last question for you is, someone dealing with an identity crisis that has been going through it. I mean, sometimes identity crises go for 6 months, sometimes they go for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the reality. But someone dealing with that, like, what's your advice to someone on how to get out of that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think there's not just like one specific like answer or way to go about it. I know I can speak from my own experience, and for me, it's one, surrounding yourself around like great people that are going to lift you up. And as soon as I was able to like share with those people what I was going through and like having the support and like being able to own it, that's how I feel like you get through it, is just like acceptance, like understanding like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. And like allow yourself to feel it. I have a tattoo on my arm that says like, she feels, and for that she is free. And I think a lot of times when we're going through hard times, identity crisis, you try to avoid feeling it. And really, like, you won't be able to understand it and get to the root of it until you actually just embrace it, understand it. And from there, that's where you start to do the work. It takes hard work. Like, it's not just like, oh, this is what I'm going through, like, I'm accepting it and that's it. Like, it took a lot of therapy for me, and just taking time for myself, but also, again, surrounding myself around really amazing people. And then again, going back to like understanding like my why. Like, I realized my identity crisis came from the fact that, like, I was always Stevie, the soccer player, the soccer star, and like I wrapped my worth around like my achievements. And like I realized that, like, without soccer, like, what am I doing, right? What am I achieving? I'm not worthy of anything if I'm not achieving. And I still am struggling through this. This is like an everyday personal struggle, but just understanding that like your worth is not tied to your achievements.
100%.
But again, like, here I am, 34 years old in real estate, and I find myself like, if I don't sell another 22 million, like, who am I? Like, right? Like, I'm already like spiraling this year of like, what if I don't do the same thing I did last year, right? So just, like, again, a constant reminder that like your value is not, and your worth is not tied to anything that you achieve.
I had a conversation with, I'm going to summarize. I think what's really cool about that is, like, you said it in the beginning. I think, another way to say it is like, find your tribe and then like let your tribe in.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big issue, like dealing with any mental health issues is like we think that our people won't be our people, or our people won't understand, or they don't get it. and then it's lonely, and then you're battling it all on your own versus just being like, this is what I'm dealing with. And like, I don't need you to come up with a solution. Just, I need you to hear me.
Yeah.
And then when you have a support system, the right tribe that you let in, like everything comes a little bit easier.
And you come to realize too, it's like you let people in, and if they don't know how to handle it, those aren't your people.
Yep.
And as you get older, you come to realize like you only want your people in your corner, and it's not worth your time or energy to keep those people around. So it's better that you figure that out now.
Yep.
It's like when you're vulnerable and you wear your heart on your sleeve and you're true to yourself and you can live a life of like authenticity and transparency, like doesn't mean life's going to be easy, but I feel like that's when like the right people, like you really step into who you are, and the right things kind of just unfold. Like life always like is working for you. Like I really believe that.
100%.
But part of that is you doing the work and standing in your truth and allowing that to come into your space.
So it's pretty interesting. This is the meeting that you came in, like I had just finished, and you came, and he's like, oh, you just scolded me. It was like, it was funny because it wasn't that. It was that, the question is I think it's very important to understand the power of your subconscious mind, right? It's very important for you to understand the power of what you feed yourself on a daily basis. And that could be a number of things. That could be the people you're around, the music you listen to, the things that you tell yourself, right? So it goes to like this fear of like, oh, if I don't sell 22 million, yada, yada, like, I've heard it a million times. I say it all the time. Like the universe does not know jokes.
I agree. Yeah.
Like the universe does not understand that. So when we say, what if I don't do this? You're putting that into the world that creates some sort of reality, which
crazy
is
how
insane,
it works.
right?
Yeah,
So
I
like,
agree.
Like it's so important that like when those thoughts come, to shift them into, I say, I have an abundant amount of deals coming my way, and my pipeline is overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is as you continue to say that over and over again, it does a couple different things. One, it re-engages your thought process as far as commission breath, as far as I need a deal. It calms you down, it relaxes you, and then from there, what ends up happening is you end up getting more deals because you create it, because your mindset is calm, and so on and so forth. And I always say faith is nothing without works, right? So like you can have that faith that, oh yeah, I have an abundant deals, but if you sit down and you're like, I got all these deals coming to me, I'm just gonna sit here, it's not gonna work, right? Like you gotta do the work.
Yeah.
But I truly believe like this thought process of the subconscious mind is like, it's called the subconscious mind. It's not, you have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind takes the back seat of the conscious mind. So like the conscious mind can control the subconscious mind. Yep. Does that make sense? So and we have to continually every day re-engage the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind works on its own.
I'm a big believer in something that I do, which this might not work for everyone, but like I'm a big writer. Like I like to journal, and in the morning, that's like my time. And I'll journal sometimes just like what I'm going through. But what I do without fail is I always title like my entry a year from now. So what's today, the 17th?
Yeah.
So February 17th, 2026. And I write as if like a year from now. I write as if like in the present moment, like,
Love
just
that.
everything that I want to happen. And it's funny, I was actually looking at a journal entry from like 2021. And I said, I'm going to buy a house in 2024. Like, and that was something that I was like continuously journaling, because I just knew with where I was at in 2021, it wasn't going to happen in 2022. So like, it was just so, but like to go back and read your journal and see like, oh my gosh, like so much of what I said, like came true.
Oh, there's, we could talk about it. That's a whole different conversation, but I truly believe like anything you want, you can actually achieve.
I agree.
If you truly put your mind to it. Most of the time, it's people say, yeah, I want this. And then it's it's a passing thought. But like when you really focus, you focus your energy and you write that down, you talk about it, you continually say it every single day. You look in the mirror and you tell yourself this is what the reality is. What ends up happening is it becomes reality. We can truly create our own reality if we take control of our reality. And I think that's a hard part for a lot of people, because most of the time, especially in today's society, we want to blame other people. We want to say we didn't hit this because of this. We didn't do this because of that, and so on and so forth, versus saying, hey, we can actually control everything. It's a whole nother level of integrity that comes in when you sit there and you say, oh, I'm responsible for all of my success and all of my failures.
Yep.
And that's a scary thing.
Yeah, it's even scary when to hear you say that.
It's a scary thing, but the reality is it's the truth. And so if we can continually take our subconscious mind and take what we want and put it out on paper and say what we want and do what we want, what will end up happening is it will become true.
Well, and I think what's like a helpful thought is like, choose your hard, right? Like it's hard to be, for people that are not where they want to be, it's hard to be in that position. It's hard to not have enough money. It's hard to not be able to hardly, pay your rent. It's hard, but it's also, and it's hard to be successful and make that money. It's like, so no matter what, like it's hard.
Yep.
So it's like, just choose your hard, but choose the hard that's going to actually get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
Because like I know for me, it's like, yeah, real estate's hard. People always say like, how are you in real estate? Like it's so hard. Yeah, it's really hard, but also working for somebody else would be really hard. Not knowing if you have job security, having someone tell you how much you're worth. Like I'd rather be the one in control, 100%. So like when I take a step back, I'm like, okay, no matter what, life is hard.
Yep.
It's hard. Choose which one.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? So like, I think that has helped me shift my perspective. Because no matter what, it's going to be challenging. I
love that. I appreciate you so much for being on today.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Appreciate you, Stevie. Great job.
Thank you.